Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and today I decided, instead of uploading a random boss kill video for my Resto Druid, which in this video is going to be Maut or Mythic Maut, I decided to do a commentary for it, just going over my actions, going over my spell usage. And by no means this is the perfect kill, this is the perfect gameplay or anything like that, because again, hindsight 2020 when you look at stuff like that afterwards. But generally speaking, I wanted to do a commentary for this video because I feel Maut is a prime example where Resto Druid cooldown usage can be highlighted. A good cooldown usage can really net you good results, and I feel every Resto Druid approaching any of these mythic or heroic or whatever fights in Nihilota should really think about their cooldowns. So first of all, Maut is a very different fight from every other fight in Nihilota because mana, forbidden mana, there's mechanics in the fight where you will get a lot of mana return. So the essence setup that I ended up going with was pretty much the basic or default essence setup for a lot of Resto Druids for Maut, and that includes ERT Major. Again, ERT is a huge return or a huge boost to healing with the basically negative effect of mana cost associated with it, but because you get a lot of mana, it doesn't really matter. I also use Symbiotic Presence, which is Formless Void Minor. I also use Strive or Vision of Perfection Minor, which is very important because it's going to reduce the cooldown of your Tranquility to 2.3 minutes. Again, it's really dependent on your neck level. For me, Trank is going to be around 2 minutes and 18 seconds in terms of the cooldown that's associated with it, and also Confident Strive. Now, what's the big deal about Maut in terms of Resto Druid? You will get Obsidian Skin, and for the people who don't know what Obsidian Skin is, it's gonna happen around 1.5 minutes. This is the big deal here. This is where you want your healing cooldowns. This is where you want to chain them, maybe not overlap them. This is why you start thinking about where I'm using my cooldowns, how I'm using my cooldowns, what's the optimal way of doing it. This is basically it. And Obsidian Skin, depending on the tactics you're gonna go with, you can one phase it with one Obsidian Skin if you pop Heroism at the very start, or you can just play it safe and have 2 Obsidian Skin phases, and this is where it becomes really interesting. This is why Vision of Perfection is really important, because you want your Trank during these Obsidian Skin phases. And basically this is my tracking of Obsidian Skin. The first one happens around 138 and the second one happens around 414. How do you optimize your cooldowns? How do you get this in a perfect way? And we'll talk about this. I'll talk about my mistakes, and I'll talk about a perfect cooldown usage that you can use for your kill later down the line. So first of all, if you just do a commentary video, if you start from the very beginning, again, the first phase of the fight, like I mentioned, Obsidian Skin happens at 1.5 minutes, 1.3 minutes or something along those lines. So basically, what can you use? Flourish is the #1 thing that you can actually pop at the very start if you really want to do so. And a lot of people will use Flourish. In this example here, I actually held on to Flourish for far too long, which kind of ended up causing me to do a biggest mistake of the fight, and I'll talk about that later on. But you'll notice that at the very start, a lot of the healers that have less than 2-minute cooldown or cooldowns, they'll be using it straight away. So things like Rapture for Disciplined Priest, for Holy Paladin Wings and Holy Avenger, they might be using it as well at the very start, because they know they'll get those cooldowns when the first Obsidian Skin is gonna happen. So basically what I'm doing right now, I've already used Innervate at the very start. I have Lively Spirits. I decided to use Innervate as often as possible, even though you will get a lot of mana back. With ERT Major, you can run into mana issues if you go really ham. It can happen. Believe me, it can. And I opted of using Inner Peace or Lively Spirits Innervate as often as possible at all the times. Again, I'm using just the default thing. I'm not popping anything. I'm not popping ERT. I'm basically just using my, again, here I actually use Flourish. So this is really late. This is extremely late to use Flourish. I think I use Flourish around 53 seconds. So you can see here actually my Flourish usage. You can see this is where I'm going to be using. I'll first of all, I'm avoiding mechanics. I'll be using Wild Growth. I'll also apply Scenario Word on the tank. And then I'm using Flourish right here. So now I extended Wild Growth. I also extended Scenario Ward on the tank for that additional min-maxing that I decided to do. But I used it at 1 minute, which is really late. And you'll see what happens later on. And it kind of bites me. It kind of ends up being a bad thing because I kind of forgot about it. But if you are playing this as Resto Druid, you can use Flourish at the very start or very entrance of the fight, and you'll get it back up for Obsidian Skin. Now, there are people using cooldowns here to get past through this phase, even though it's, again, you kind of want to hold on to everything. This is a mythic poke, so there is no set amount of cooldowns. Everything's kind of, you just use it as much as you want, because I feel a lot of people might not want to set out cooldowns. It's very important to set out cooldowns. We're 4 healing it, as you can see. If you're 5 healing it, it's going to be a lot easier, but as 4 healers, you should really do it. And this is the first Obsidian Skin. So, the way that I do it is I apply as many hearts as I can. I'll use Wild Growth, and then I'll set out with Tranquility. You can see here, I already popped my ERT Major. I'm already, when you pop your ERT Major, you want to cast as many spells as you can, because it's going to boost your healing, and then you'll have this healing boost where you can fit in a lot of different spells into it. So now I'm popping Wild Growth, and then I'm going to be using Tranquility like probably right now, or very, very soon. So I'm popping Tranquility. The problem here, and this is the biggest mistakes that I made in this fight, my Flourish has 19-second cooldown. I will not be able to Trank and Flourish right afterwards. And this was the biggest mistake I made in this fight, besides my Tree of Life usage. During Obsidian Skin, you definitely want to cast Trank followed by Flourish, because it's going to be continuous healing. The Trank hot is going to be extended. You can see my grid 2 is going all green. Basically, the reason it goes all green is just basically to highlight that everyone has Tranquility hot on them. My Trank is finished, and I just realized, oh well, my Flourish is not going to be here. Again, it's not the end of the world, because I will still be able to use or Flourish a little bit early. Again, Efflorescence uptime, really, really important. I'm using Spring Blossoms, really, really important. Again, ERT came back, and I popped my Tree of Life. Now, because I popped my Tree of Life this late in the fight, and I wasn't sure if we're going to go 2 Obsidian Skins or not, I kind of wasted one of the Tree of Life usages. I won't be able to use Tree of Life for the really important second Obsidian Skin phase. So I just went ham on the first one. I Tranked and I Tree of Life, and Tree of Life just runs out now. Again, I still have my Maut Trinket as well for extra mana, because you can see mana can be an issue, 100%. So what I did on Obsidian Skin phase 1, or at least my intention, Tranquility followed by Flourish, didn't happen, but to some extent. Tranquility followed by Flourish, then Tree of Life. So I basically was able to cover the first Obsidian Skin all by myself. With ERT, I was doing a whole lot of healing. Again, my Innervate came back off cooldown. I'm using it on cooldown. I'm using Innervate on cooldown. It's giving me a boost because I have Lively Spirits. It's very, very, very important as well. But you can see there's a decent amount of damage happening between these Obsidian Skin phases as well. So there's still a relative amount of healing. But generally speaking, you just put Rejuvenations, you use Wild Growth on cooldown to some extent, because there is a lot of AoE damage happening here. My Meticulous Scheming proc, I don't think I'm actually making use of that at this point. I should have casted like a Regrowth. Again, I was using Scenario Word, which is actually another mistake that I made. Scenario Word is not the best for this fight. This is a primary fight where Abundance could be actually really strong, because Obsidian Skin phases, when people pop some really strong cooldowns, they're gonna need direct healing. Rejuvenation is not going to heal them, believe me, because Fire Mages, especially with Combustion, they're gonna go down. So you need spot healing, and Abundance with Regrowth can be really, really good, especially with Rampart Growth Talent as well, or Rampart Growth Azeroth trait as well, makes it really, really strong. So we nearly killed it, but now, we nearly killed it, but we went into a second Obsidian Skin phase. Now, you can see here, I have Tranquility available, I have Flourish available as well. I do not have Tree of Life. Tree of Life is on a 50-second cooldown, and we'll talk about how I could have optimized this. So the Resto Shaman is using Spiritling. Again, this is Mythic Poke. We have no set amount of cooldowns, but you can see a lot of people have killed themselves because they went ham with their cooldowns outside of the Spiritling. So this is where Abundance could have been really, really strong. Again, I'm basically using Wild Growth into Tranquility. So I used Wild Growth into Tranquility. I could have used Scenario Word into Wild Growth, into Trank, or and then Flourish. Or actually, I could have used it before it to extend it, because I'm going to be using Flourish afterwards. So I have Trank running right now. I'm popping some Rejuvenations. I want to get a few more Rejuvenations out, and then I Flourish. I could have done what I could have done as well. I could have went Wild Growth, Tranquility, Wild Growth again, into Flourish. or even scenario word before wild growth into flourish. So now I'm extending multiple different things. My mastery is stacking through the roof and things like that. Again, I'm using ERT on cooldown pretty much at this stage. My scenario word is still on cooldown. I'm not making use of it. Okay, I applied it here. Efflorescence, again, I'm never letting efflorescence drop. To some extent, I could actually even override it before it drops to keep the Spring Blossom stacks high as well. I have ERT available. I'm probably going to use it. Again, I haven't seen this or rewatched it yet. I should be using it pretty soon. My mana is getting a bit of an issue. I'm using it right now. Tree of Life is coming in 9 seconds. This is where I had an issue here. I have my Tree of Life at a stage where I don't really need it. There's nothing really going on right now. Okay, again, I pop my Tree of Life to do some of the healing. This is not really going to save anybody. The fight is over and done with. So how could I have optimized it and made it even better for this given fight? So if you know exactly how many Obsidian Skin phases you're going to have, Tree of Life has a 3-minute cooldown. Tree of Life has 3-minute cooldown. Your Tranquility is probably going to have 2.3-minute cooldown. Depending on your neck level, it's around 2 minutes and 18 seconds for me. So Obsidian Skin happens at 1.3 minutes or 1.4, and it lasts, or at least the time in between them is about 2.5 minutes, or 2 minutes and 30 seconds, 2 minutes and 40 seconds, something along those lines. So you can use Flourish early in the fight. If you're a Discipline Priest, you can use Rapture. If you're a Holy Paladin, you can use your Holy Avenger and Wings, and you'll get it back up for the first Obsidian Skin. During Obsidian Skin, what I should have done, I should have popped, Tree of Life somewhere around this area. Tree of Life is going to last you 30 seconds. So now I pop it at around 139, means I'm going to last it until like 2 minutes something. Then I can pop my Trank into Flourish, and I'm gonna cover the whole first series. Now, Tree of Life has a 3-minute cooldown, so I pop it at 1 minute and 38. I'm gonna get it back up at 440 around that time. 440 is going to be midway of second Obsidian Skin phase. Now, my Trank, because I'm popping Tree of Life at 139, it's gonna last me around 210 or something, or 220. I'm gonna pop my Tranquility somewhere here at 213, which means that I'm gonna have my Tranquility back up at around 430. So that means I'm able to cover everything. Tree of Life, Tranquility, Flourish, then I get back my Tranquility at 420 or 430 or something like that. Second Obsidian Skin, I pop my Trank, possibly into Flourish, and around 440, because I used my Tree of Life at 140, around 440 I'll get my Tree of Life for around 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Again, more than enough to cover the whole mod fight. So this would have been the most optimal way of doing it. Again, it's going to be different depending on what strategy you're using, because you can burn down mod. But again, this is a primary fight where I feel setting out your cooldowns as a Resto Druid is really, really important, and you can really, really optimize it. And thinking beforehand how you're going to approach is really important. Like I mentioned before, just a small summary again. Flourish at the start, Tree of Life, Trank, Flourish, Tranquility, Tree of Life, or Tranquility, Flourish, Tree of Life. And this is only going to work if you're running Vision of Perfection, which is going to lower your Tranquility cooldown by a substantial amount. Very, very important. Again, guys, let me know if you enjoy these kind of videos. There's a lot of leeway in terms of how to optimize it. This does not mean it's the best way of doing it. The fight that I approached, that I showed, I was not really optimizing everything anyways. So there's a lot of different things that you could do. Let me know, guys, if you enjoy these kind of videos and if you want to see more of them in the future. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next guide.